You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's The Americans After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Americans After Show.
On a warm summer's eve.
Yes.
Train bound for Nowhere.
Mr. Kenny Rogers coming
Met
through.
up with a gambler.
The Gambler.
Both too tired to sleep.
So good.
You love this song, too.
I do. I'm like really happy right now.
I love this song, too.
window
Let's let this ride out versus here. 4 minutes of Kenny Rogers, the Gambler.
Fine with that.
Welcome to the Americans AfterBuzz After Show. I'm Joe Braswell. I'm joined by the lovely Jenifer Golden.
Hi, everybody.
And also joined by Marissa Serafini on the ones and twos.
Hello. And in spirit by Lauren Leonelli and Joe Zanflabel.
Yes, they're here in spirit. Neither are here. They're doing other stuff, but not being with us. But who needs them? Well,
We do a little bit.
Whatever. And that's also Kenny Rogers with the Gambler, which opened our show and also opened the episode The Deal, which is the episode we saw tonight, which was fantastic.
It was.
God, man, the stupid show. As we say this every week, and I'll probably say it for the next next 10 weeks or 8 weeks, whatever I forget left. Episode 5, Marissa? Yeah. So, I mean, it's just so good. This was a total, like, day in the life episode, right?
Right.
It was just like a day in the life. And I remember thinking, like, when he got home after that day, I'm like, God, what a day. Like, that's a hard day at the office.
Yeah, that you actually did say that. This was just really interesting. I think the show is just so good, and they pack so much into each episode.
Yeah, so we didn't get that much of the Claudia side mission to find out who killed Emmett and the family.
I kind of like that they're drawing that out though, because that is so interesting and important and kind of fascinating with what went wrong.
Yeah, and who the mystery of who killed.
Right. I think it's looming over also. Philip and Elizabeth's heads, because now there's so many things playing into like them questioning what they're doing, and I mean, they're always paranoid and skeptical, but like it's really coming to a head, I think.
Yeah, well, Joe Flip and I touched on it last week. It's like the stakes are so high. Like you've got, they've got this real mission that they've got to do and focus on. They've got this side mission they've got to focus on. They've got their family. Paige is running off to church, looking at cute boys playing guitars and reading Bibles under her pillow. And there's a lot going on there for them to do. And we see today at the end of the episode that was a full day. Like he just got home, put his head on the couch, and the kids are up. Mom, where's my shirt?
Right, like the alarm goes off, and he said another day.
Yeah, another day. That was I really like the idea of this whole day of the life. It's kind of cool that we get to see. We complained a lot last season about we see this weird spy life. They're off wearing wigs and doing spy-ish, and then the kids are somewhere, and then it just seems like, well, how do they have time to do all this stuff? They got their travel agency,
right?
They got like wigs. They're going on missions. The kids are at school. Like, how does this all work? And this was a day we actually kind of saw most of it.
Well, we didn't see the travel agency.
We didn't see the travel agency. We assumed that they have that on lock.
And don't they have employees?
Sure, yeah, they have to. That place is doing its thing. So what do we see today? We saw a lot.
I want to know where their income comes from, their actual income, like whether it's from Moscow or from their travel agency.
That's a good question.
Because they never talk about finances ever.
Well, Philip and Elizabeth have to have Social Security numbers and W-2s and taxes, and they have to be Social Security. They have to be legit. So we're assuming there is an income that comes from the travel agency that goes into a bank, because if they were ever investigated or audited or anything like that, they would have to all check out.
I would just really like to know more about their finances, because that's the one topic they don't touch on.
That's very true. I'm assuming they get some sort of money, from obviously they get money or whatever from Moscow as well.
Like, but what does a spy make in that day?
Yeah, what does a spy like? Because the stakes are high. I mean, is it all for like God and country? Well, not God, but for the Russians. But is it all for country and country, or is it like highly paid and lucrative?
I don't know,
back in the
because
80s? That's a good question.
Then when they were talking about Emmett and what was her name, Leanne?
Yes.
Their son. They were saying like, well, he'll be taken care of.
Right.
But like I think she asked like, how so? And it was like, we don't know.
Yeah.
They just take care of.
We'll figure it out.
Right.
We take care of everything because this is
Right.
this is communism.
But I do think that they keep revealing that there are things they do not know about this program.
Sure.
Like, you're trusting so much in this country, yet
Right.
you
The center.
also still don't have information.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like this is
It's blind trust.
Well, this is kind of like the cornerstone of what communism and the Cold War and before that was sort of based on. It's like, we are the government, we know what's best, we
Right.
will take care of the citizens. You know, this is we're all one, and
It's very 1984.
yeah. Oh,
Oh.
that's what you did there.
I know, except that was about our country, so.
That's true. So, so yeah, this is the deal, and the deal that was made was we got to see the continuation of that cliffhanger we got last week, which in the middle of them trying to do they're trying to repatriatize or repatriate. I don't know the word, but the Russian scientists, they got ambushed by a mystery couple, which we now know were two Mossad agents there to protect their Russian Jew guy. And so that was interesting. So
Wait, were they taking him, though, to still get the deal that they wanted?
I think this is
I
where
think
it gets
the goal
tricky.
was to get that deal to happen, which is why they were going to take him, to use him as leverage.
To use him as leverage,
Yes.
maybe, against the Russians, get that to happen. This
So that then
this is what I'm unclear on, and I know that
One Russian for you, 15 Jews for us.
well, that's what happened. That's
Right.
ultimately what happened. But I don't know.
100.
I'm totally unclear. And then the internet, please help us out on iTunes and YouTube. Is that like, because the woman was his mistress, I think. Like so he had a mistress who it turns out maybe was a Mossad plant, and I don't know if she was there to help kidnap him, or she was there to watch over him to protect him. So when he was getting grabbed, I couldn't tell if they were there to save him or if they were there to take him. And I felt like they were there to save him, but whatever happened, they took him away. And but the Russians had one of theirs, one of theirs. So the deal was, we'll give you back your Mossad agent, you give us back our Russian, that's that. And so in Arcady, as we saw, he said if it costs him his career, he's going to get this deal done. And as we saw at the end, 1,500 of your peeps.
My peeps in the tribe, my tribe members.
Peeps got to go free. And I love that bit at the end where they're like, looks like Russia's softening, humanitarian. Looks like it's a humanitarian gesture on their part. And it cuts chained to the boat. Poor guy.
Oh God, that's so awful.
So we did see that scene.
Wait, by the way, and just for the Jews out there, that's very almost like Passover, let my people go.
Yeah.
How timely, Russia let our people go. Oh.
Sorry.
Jewish reference.
To all my Jewish folks. So so we got to see the conclusion of that, and what they decided is they're gonna, they tied him up, and I didn't know if they were gonna torture him to figure out what's going on, but it didn't take that long. But what we got is, I thought we were gonna get this crazy torture scene or this crazy
He was just hostage.
something, but what we got instead was this very interesting dialogue between two old war horses, two old spies, who do the same job,
right?
But in a real conversation. It reminded me a lot of a little bit of Safe House, with Denzel and Ryan Reynolds, and where there's this piece where we do the same job, we're talking, but there's a mutual respect for each other, but we're not on the same side. That there was a lot of that.
It was interesting because of all the parallels and the comparisons between our country and your country, and our communism and your communism, and the way we handle, saving our spies and what we die for and what you die for. And I feel like those kinds of conversations make Philip think, and
I would clearly it was he, my man Mr. Mossad was dropping some bombs on Philip. He was just his big line was, he said, he says, I'm bronze, not platinum like you. I go home for before I go home for Passover, I hide what I do, but I don't hide who I am.
Right.
And I was like, face Philip, you know,
yeah, like he said, I don't have to hide my accent. I can sing Kenny Rogers with an accent. I don't have to change what I look like. I don't have to change my name, but I hide what I do.
Yes, and I didn't recognize that as as an Israeli accent, and I probably, I'm ashamed that I did not recognize it as a Israeli accent. I thought like, oh, he's Russian.
I thought so too. But
okay, good.
Then
because you're Jewish,
right? But then I'm not Israeli. But so then after when they said he was Israeli, I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense.
That does make more sense.
He had a tan, so I was like, oh, Israeli.
Yeah.
You definitely come from like a frozen place.
Yeah, and be like exactly, he's definitely Mossad. So, that was that whole like it's kind of this weird like also. We saw there was the mundane parts of that job. Like Philip was essentially just babysitting in a makeshift safe house, like, which wasn't a safe house. It was just a holdup, like not knowing what he's gonna do, like trying to figure out. He patched up the guy's wounds, kept him alive, tied him up, and basically he's like waiting, in his little beanie. And it's like, and then while he's waiting, they get to have these conversations, and it's like it's very mundane. You don't think of again, the spy work we see is all action-packed and karate and sex and and codes and explosions.
Just sitting and watching your hostage,
yes.
or your
you're hostage at the time.
Yeah.
Also, we get to see the mundane parts, like him having to take him to the bathroom. Which thank you, Joe Weisberg and FX, and for letting us see every bit of all of that, including the sound design of him peeing. I'm like, are we gonna hear the plop? Like what?
I know.
That was
I'm so uncomfortable. That
was a full scene we did not need to see. I'm like, okay.
But I like that. I mean, that is part of the deal.
Yeah.
Like, if not, we would have said, well, what happens in that one day?
Exactly.
Why didn't you show us what really happens while you're sitting there? That guy's got to go to the bathroom. Like, you fed him.
Yeah.
So.
And it's also a trick. It's also a weird sort of like suspenseful trick, because even though it's like, I have to go, to the number 2, he didn't say that, but then they say he drags him in there, and I'm like, okay, cut away. I'm like, oh, they're still on this.
Right.
Now I have to pull my pants down. I'm like, okay, cut away. Nope. The whole thing.
Right.
But it added this tension of like, oh, he's gonna try something, and
right.
then the way Philip was approaching it, But of course, I mean, I'm recounting this, but I'm only recounting this because I'm so crazy. Then he had to wipe him. Like,
I know you really want to live through every moment.
We had to see it. I know we all saw it, and I'm living it again, but I'm just like, this speaks to the point of the mundane work of spying. Spying's not all like just making out with broads and shooting guns.
It's not. It's not the glamorous job.
No,
it's cracked up to be.
It's not. It's all James Bond tuxedos and Baccarat.
No, it's very not for them actually.
No.
But so of course I love that the Mossad agent, tried to get away, and he's like, listen, I had to try something.
Yeah, which was cool. That's part of that whole like sort of mutual respect spy stuff. It's like, hey, come on, I had to try something. You would have done it.
And I like that Philip didn't then like kill him or anything. Like, like that was not part of the deal.
Exactly.
But also we were introduced to the new person in charge of them.
The new Claudia.
Which is so strange that she's so young. I don't understand it.
Well, she explained that basically. It's like she was Claudia is one of the most experienced, handlers we have, and you found her unacceptable. So it's a dual thing. It just shows what the center, how highly regarded Philip and Elizabeth are to the center. It's like these guys are top agents, and Claudia wasn't good enough for them, so we got to find them someone that they can work with. It's almost like, if you're at a corporation and you have a boss, and the boss is giving you ish, and you have the power to call up, go above their head, and they'll send you someone who you can deal with. And so she was very much like, it's an honor to work with you, and blah blah blah. So it was like, come on, but he was all business. He wanted to get the negotiation done, and it was done. So, which we'll get to in a second. But that was there's a lot going on just on that part of it, like that he had to endure. And it was cool to see. What's great about this episode too is in terms of Philip, we didn't get a lot of exposition from Philip at all in terms of like, oh wow, my life is weird, and oh no, I really miss my kids.
He didn't
what
say
am I
anything,
doing?
but it was all in his eyes,
Yes.
and Lauren would say it was his acting choices.
Yes, and Joe Flippo might say that too. So he'd be like, I really love the guy, the way the guy choice. That's my bad, Joe Flippo.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen him in a while, but I don't think he talks like that.
I think he does. It's like Seinfeld, and I don't know what he's talking like. But anyway, so Yeah, it was. It was all like it's a great move by an actor when you can just sort of see what they're thinking, like, and you can look at them and sort of see the wheels turning.
Right.
And we all know as an audience member, like, oh, every time he said something, like, oh, Philip, what do you think of that? And it's just like, you know.
Right.
So that was cool. So all that, so we got that piece happening, and then we get to cut back to, you know, we know our triad here. We have the office drama, and then we have the three main dramas we have, right? So we have the office, which is the Residentura and the FBI. So we have to see what's going on interpolitically with those two things. And then we have the spy stuff, which is the action stuff that happens, and then whatever the caper or the heist, or not the heist, but the operation is. And then we have the family drama stuff, you know, between Philip and Elizabeth and the family and whatever else. And then we have all the Stan.
Poor Martha too.
Well, that's the other thing. We have the affair stuff, which
Right.
I'll categorize that as Stan and Nina and Clark and Martha.
Right.
So we have all these sort of multiple storylines to follow.
Oh my goodness!
They're all,
and then Elizabeth even had her own little thing going on.
yeah, which was well handled. So I don't know. Let's run down these. So we get just in the FBI side. Not much going on, but we see that, you know, Stan wants to. The FBI has some leads as to maybe what may or may not be going on. Stan has some ideas. He brings in Gad, presumably to help him do some paperwork and push some pencils, but really it's for he needed his access to go find out some stuff that a lead he wanted to work.
Right.
So it's like the two buddies working together again, and Gad looked a little like, you know, he was like a little smile on his face. He's like, oh,
He was
really?
a little excited.
Yeah,
He was like eager, a little overeager.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I'll get right on it. You know, it was kind of cute.
Like, you want me back?
Yeah, it was very cute.
Yeah.
And so that they did that. But on the Residentura side, we see this power struggle between Oleg and Arkady continue. And, you know,
well, we have to address the Russian portions of the show.
Sure.
Because I know as a viewer, like, I'm so used to hearing them just like have this dialogue, then when it switches over to Russian and there's subtitles, I'm like,
yeah.
Like, what?
It is,
like, it makes me have to like switch a gear in my brain and like really focus, but also takes me out of it a little bit.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm on the fence on that, because I have the exact same reaction, but like I do respect that they're doing it that way.
I like that it's authentic.
Right? Because, you know, like in movie, whatever, The Hunt for Red October, it's like Sean Connery like talking in his Scottish accent as a Russian. It's like, you know, whatever. Like they did that thing where they'll use a lot of Russians and they'll talk in whatever accent they're talking, or they'll talk in some broken American accent, and it's like, that's, you know, I don't know, but it's kind of cool to see them talk in Russian. But it is, you know, you have to like, oh, let's start reading and pay attention.
Right.
But I will say the dialogue, I mean, even though it's all in Russian, I mean, there's some zingers in there.
Oh yeah.
Like Arkady was definitely, you know, giving it to Oleg at the door when he knocked on his door in the radio room. You know, it was kind of cool, that whole exchange there. And also I like this whole interaction. They added this weird assistant / secretary dude to Arkady, because you get it's almost like you can get Arkady's inner monologue. Like, you get to say like all the stuff that it's a good device for him to be able to say the things he wants to say out loud. Like, this cost me my career, and da 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 da. Like, who else would he say that to? So they had to create this little guy who's talking to, just kind of like, yes, Arkady, but I thought that was kind of cool. So it's good to see all that. But, you know, I gotta say, I'm starting to like this Oleg.
I like him. He's a little bit of a badass.
He's cocky. I kind of like his swag.
I like him too.
Yeah, I like, you know, he's also like, he's sort of backing his
He's like
kind
of going rogue.
Right. Well, I think that Joe was calling him like you know, he's just a Russian frat boy, but I think he's way more advanced than that. He's definitely like, I think he's talking a lot of stuff, and he's definitely got some cockiness, and he's definitely got some swag, but he's backing it up 100%.
Right.
You know,
like he says he does counterintelligence. He does counterintelligence.
Yes, he's like, I'm very good at counterintelligence, and guess what? His counterintel was spot on. Not only was it spot on from the standpoint of he saw all four tails, including Stan, and led Stan away, but more importantly, he figured out the whole Nina situation.
Right.
And then, you know, speaking of counterintelligence, figured out a way to find leverage and flip the whole thing.
Right.
To put him in a weird power position.
I would say Nina's probably not unsafe, but he said she was.
Oh yeah, of course.
Just to light a fire, since now he knows that he loves her.
Yeah. Well, what it does for him is it he saw the opportunity. He saw the opportunity now that he has the information. Like once he got that file, and once he got little Nina, and once he started reading stuff, and he's really smart. Like he said, he's a student of all these things. Like, and he doesn't like Arcady, so it's like he sees leverage. Now he can use all this to say, I can make my own moves because you were working Nina, and then we put Nina to work you. But and you think you're working Nina, and we think Nina's working you, but guess what? I'm going to work both of you.
Right.
Because I'm Oleg.
Did he say how he knows about Nina and him? Did he say that?
No, he didn't have to. All he had to say was like, how's Nina? And so it's like, Nina? Who's Nina?
Right. I mean, it was like,
yeah.
Oh, Stan just seems so like behind.
Well, that was, what was, I did like that because like I think I mentioned a couple episodes ago in the last episode that like Stan is so proud of himself with Nina.
He is arrogant.
Like his arrogance with Nina is like, let me just go and, lay it down and she'll give me the info because she loves me. And like,
and he thought he was going to get an award.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, he's got his swag with Nina is just like, I've got this under control. And it was kind of cool to see Nina be able to take that power away from him secretly. But to see the look on his face when he's like, oh yeah, that asset you're working, yeah, she's in danger. I know you love her. You don't want her to be in danger, do you? So now you work for me. And It's like, it'll be, so I wonder, because Stan, I talked about this last week with Joe, how this is sort of brings in what I talked about with Joe, because last week we saw Stan when he had that personal conversation with Philip, and he confessed that he's having an affair, and he seemed really, really sort of disillusioned and beat down by life in general, and then the FBI, because then he saw, like, after he saved shot the guy on the roof, then instead of getting accommodation, he gets investigated, and Gad gets sent away. So it seemed like he was very disillusioned, and I asked the question, is he susceptible to being turned maybe?
I would say no, but it does sound to me like more of what we were talking about just now was that these people are starting to question what they're doing for their country.
Right.
And exactly. I think that, it comes into play every so often because how can you not be reminded of that when you're doing the kind of work they're doing? And it is so draining. Like, there was the parallel, I think, because Stan had to go back to the office late at night.
Right.
And Philip had to work the whole night through.
Yeah.
So they were essentially doing similar things for each country.
Yeah.
Neither of which is very thanked.
It's a great point, because that's kind of what we're seeing, like last season we set the world, and we have, these are the Russians and these are the Americans, and and then we're like, well, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, a lot of that, and we're all doing their thing.
Right now it seems like the Israelis.
Exactly. Well, this season, so we've established, the Russians and the FBI, but then it's kind of like, well, is anybody? We're all just kind of like, is there a good guy and a bad guy? Right. They're all just kind of following orders, but are the orders right? And it kind of like really zooms out on the sort of the insanity of war and the Cold War specifically.
Yes.
It's really, that's a very good observation. But like I wonder now, I got to ask you, so now I asked the question last week, is Stan susceptible to being turned? And now we have this week, Oleg basically saying, I got you. What are you going to give me? I thought Stan, on one hand, Stan's pretty much true blue FBI guy. On the other hand, he's a disillusioned guy who's in love with Nina. Which way do you think he'll go?
I think he needs to retire.
Well, yeah.
I think he is past his prime.
What do you think, though? Do you think he's going to, like...
I don't think he'll turn.
Give up Nina?
I think...
He's like, I don't care. Let her die. I'm an American.
No, I think that he will probably give up Nina. And I think Oleg likes Nina, which is probably why he did that. Also, I want to know why Oleg let him anywhere. He was driving somewhere.
Right.
And there was a tail on him for a reason.
Right.
But where was he originally going?
Well, he was originally going to go meet, he was going to, supposedly going to go do the whole thing with Philip, and help with the exchange or supervise it, if you will.
Did anyone even ask where their supervisor was, or did they not know Oleg was going at all?
No, that was that. They had that meeting in the room where Arcady was like, it looks like, and I'll go too, basically.
Oh yeah, he said, I don't want you at the exfiltration.
Yeah, and Alex and Arcady's like, why would you even be there? He's like, because I'm number 2 in command, and I'm Oleg. I'm out, and I'm good at counterintelligence. Peace. And so he went, and he was right. So, but
he would have been unnecessary.
Oh, of course he would have been, but he just doesn't want to be cooped up at the Residentura. Like he wants
to be in the field,
be in the field, and be in the action. So so that was it. So we'll see what happens with that. But that Oleg turned out to be a great counter-intel dude and turn the tables, and we'll see what happens with Stan.
I respect Oleg now.
Yes. So going back, so we see, and we just to finish this whole storyline out, the new Claudia comes back basically, and and Philip's like, "Where's my safe house?" And he says, "Well, we don't need a safe house," meaning there's a deal being struck. So they do actually make the deal and do the exchange, and and then my Mossad agent, man, he was like ribbing Philip the whole way, like, "Bet your wife, that's the one who beat me up. I bet she's a joy to go home to. I'll see you later." Like, he's like, "Shut up, it's not too late to kill you." They're like a comedy team going down there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a cool thing. They get the exchange, and it's like, again, two guys who respect each other. And then just when you think Philip is doing enough, like, sort of psychological pain, hearing the Mossad guy give him a bunch of ish, then he's got to go put the poor scientist in the car. And that was heart-wrenching.
I mean, he pleaded and begged to stay in the United States. His son is going to have a bar mitzvah. And he wanted to stand there and be part of, his son becoming a man in the Jewish tradition. And
heart-wrenching.
Heart-wrenching.
And he cried. And then he had that sobbing for like 30 seconds of camera time. That was actually more painful than watching my Mossad guy go to the bathroom.
It was actually, I don't know. You know what? I don't know. I don't know that it was. No. But, I feel like it always happens where they're tugging on their heartstrings about their children. And I really felt like maybe Philip would have a change of heart, but I don't think that he can make those calls. But I do think that then plays more into the fact that he wonders what he's doing here now.
Yeah, well, in the pilot from season 1, Philip was like out. He's ready to defect.
Right.
And then we had him, we saw his whole arc from the pilot all the way to where he is now, which is back and, and being fully committed and ready.
I don't know how you go from one extreme to the other, because being ready to defect is like, bye.
Right.
I'm over you and your values and the country and all that. So to go back full force, I mean, it seems like he does waver a lot.
Well, I mean, because obviously he had to be, committed enough to do it, and then he got to the point where he was doubting it.
Right.
And then now he's recommitted, and now it seems like Elizabeth may be the one who's closer. I'm not saying she's going to defect, but she's definitely, her wheels are turning a lot more than they usually do.
I like seeing that, because it does make you feel a little bit, more empathetic toward them.
Yeah, especially Elizabeth, because it humanizes her.
Right, and I like seeing that.
Yeah.
I'm not mad when they question things.
And and Elizabeth was such a freaking goddamn robot last season.
I like her so much more this season.
Yeah, she's showing a lot of range too.
Yeah, she is.
Which we'll get to in all of her different characters. But yeah, so I just back to one last thing about that car ride is as we talk about the acting, we talk about like again Philip. Matthew Rhys, great job in acting. He's just like stone faced, and that he's just like his heart's breaking, or he's like, and then there's specific digs about kids and family, and do you have a family, and and all this other stuff, and I gotta go back. Like, you don't have to go back. Like, please let me work for you. And I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't be so bad. Let him work here. Like, let him steal our American secrets here. Like, I always find myself rooting for the Russians somehow. It's crazy.
But what happens to you when you go back? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. Like,
they clearly lock you like away.
Well, that's what he was saying. Like, what kind of life I'm going to be like in Russia, the place I try to get out of my whole life, and not to mention, he made it very clear in the opening scene from last week that. He did so much to get out of there, mainly because of his freedom of religion. Like, he's a Jew. Like, he wants to be able to practice his religion. So he's going to go back there and be totally, back into the communist mode and just have to be locked down and not even have his family, not have his religion.
I mean, I'm sure he's also punished for defecting.
Yeah. So I don't know. That sounds like a tough gig for him. And that was
poor guy.
But that's life in the Cold War.
Sad life.
I guess that's life in the spy world. So switching over to that we also got a direct continuation of the same day of. I mean, it kind of picked up right where we left off, right, from last season, from last episode. Yeah. So we got Martha still swilling the wine on the phone.
I mean, her and her empty threats.
Clark,
she needs to get a grip. That storyline annoys me probably more than the Russian.
I like that. I like Martha. I like Martha in the white Grenache.
She kills me. It's like she's so pathetic. Like, your husband is not your husband.
Yeah.
Woman, get it together. But the fact that Elizabeth came over pretending to be Jenifer, the sister.
Yes.
And like, she was so convincing.
Yeah, that was. I mean, all that. I mean, now again, we talk about with that. Carrie Russell has more to do, and also the Elizabeth character. Like to see her be 3 different people in one episode.
Right.
So
that must be fun as an actor. It's like
and then there were 3 completely different personalities.
Right.
I mean, the sister, whose name I don't remember. I'm
Jenifer.
sorry, Jennifer. Like she was a
remember
total.
it.
She even dropped the. You should remember it. She even dropped the. I don't want to be a Betty Budinsky.
Oh my goodness.
Like which is so like 80s. And she was so great and knew and did a great job of sort of covering and knew exactly what to say to get
Right,
Martha there.
Clark, pull to Clark.
Right. And what's great about that scene, the turn in that scene, which is like Elizabeth was in complete control because she knows Philip and she knows how Philip is. Obviously she's married to him and she knows him as a spy. So she's like, I know all the things to say to make her feel okay.
Right.
And then I know everything about this guy and I had complete control and it worked. I win. And she's like, let me tell you what, he's crazy in the sack. And it's like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah. Oh God. I
That
can't
was-
imagine what that's like. But hearing that about your own husband, but
Yeah.
hey, it's part of the spy life.
Yeah, and then again, well acted by Carrie Russell, who's kind of like, oh, what? And then she's like, does not want to know. And she's like, well, what's he like?
Which I feel like any sister would not actually say. She, I think, was
No.
curious to see if he was like what he is with her, with Martha.
And I know Martha was like hopped up on the box wine and the bottle of what Chardonnay or white Grenache or Chablis or whatever the hell it was. But like, yeah, I mean, you don't tell your sister about your brother. I mean, that's like, let me tell you about your brother. He's an animal in the sack.
Oh.
Your brother. I know you may not want to hear this, but let me tell you what. Like that's like,
That's
come on,
inappropriate.
Martha.
Lines are being crossed all over the place.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was an interesting scene, and then we get to see Elizabeth go and then go back and deal with the young sailor, which is also sweet and heartbreaking. But he finally, I mean, that little handy, as Joe would say, that little handy she gave him in the car worked because he went and got the files. He got them and gave them to her, and then
They get what they want, like Philip said.
But she was successful in working him, and she didn't have to sleep with him. I mean,
Right.
she did, and what she did was a lot more impersonal than sleeping with him. And she got the files, and then she told him like, okay, bye, and he was like, I'm not going to see you again, am I? She's like, not really, thanks.
She said, I have nothing to give you.
Right.
Oh.
I mean, it was a very like sweet, poignant thing, but
Right.
it actually made sense. And in a weird way, I feel like the sailor doesn't feel heartbroken. He feels like he did the right thing. He did something noble. He had a moment, and like
Right.
it was just a really like sweet way to
It was.
end that instead of like a bullet to the head or a wrench to the face or something. The poor guy. So Elizabeth Day, she had a full day too, but not
Yeah.
quite as tough, right?
Right,
She got to deal with Martha, and she got to go and deal with the sailor kid, and
She also had to deal with Paige.
she got to go home and deal with Paige, which was, and then I was also very telling that scene where Paige kind of came down and tried to give that little confession, and it felt like a mirror image. It felt like she was trying to say like how it felt like this is how Elizabeth feels. Like I don't know how to handle all the complicated things in my life. I don't have nowhere to put it.
Well, what's so complicated about Paige's life?
I don't know.
Because she doesn't know any of the complications. She's just living in a house with parents that don't talk to her.
But she's a teenage girl, so it's
Right.
like it's all like
And
I
they
mean,
don't talk because they're cagey, cold
right.
Russians. And
Exactly.
I mean, I guess they try and talk, but not really.
But that was kind of a cool. I feel like that even though she's kind of coming down and giving basically the teenage angst speech of like, my life is incredibly hard and complicated. I don't know what I'm doing. But it was a mirror image of like Elizabeth, whose life is complicated and she doesn't know where to put all this stuff.
Right.
This is why she's beating the crap out of the Mossad agent, and then losing her ish,
Right.
So
There isn't like a appointed therapist in the
I
Russian
know
spy
they need
world.
they need like a weird handler therapist to sit down,
Right.
a spy marriage counselor, a spy
A
counselor of some sort.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. That all happened, and then obviously, the last thing is to deal with really is just the Oleg. The Nina Oleg sort of like we touched on a little bit, but I don't know. I mean, obviously Oleg is into Nina, and obviously Oleg's all over everything she's doing, but I still maintain that Nina is very much into him. What are you picking up?
I agree. I'm
as a
picking up what
woman?
you're putting down.
Yes.
Is that the saying?
Yes, that's what the kids say. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's what I mean.
Okay, good. It feels that way. It feels very much like
I think she likes that he's like, kind of got balls.
Yeah. And so, and she definitely Stan. I mean, even though she knows Stan killed her friend, Stan is not exactly the ballsiest guy. At least not in the sack or not.
No.
You know, I mean, I'm assuming. I don't know. I haven't seen the anyway. So I think that's it, right? I mean, that was.
I think so.
I mean, we got Mossad, we got the agents, we got the Russian doctor, we got Martha, we got Gad, we got the politics, we got everything. I think that's just about everything.
What we don't have is news and gossip.
News and gossip. Well, we have something. You have one hot item.
Well, that's what I mean. We haven't talked about it.
News and gossip. Drop.
Drop it like it's hot. Speaking of things that are hot, Matthew Reese and Kerry Russell are actually seeing each other in real life.
What?
She like separated from her hubby. And they have like kids.
Oh.
Yeah. Totes.
So wait, since she started The Americans married. Hey, I'm happy with my husband. And now her and Matthew Reese.
This is very Angie and Brad.
Very Angie and Brad. Was her husband an actor?
I don't know. No, I think he's a behind the scenes human.
Right. You know, it's like most of us are. Well, I mean, it's sad because I feel bad for the husband and the kids and the broken family. But as someone who doesn't know any of them personally, yay!
You know,
good for them.
It is what it is. It could happen to anybody in any profession when working closely with somebody.
Right.
We just happen to hear about these particular people because they're in the news.
Yeah.
You don't hear about like some rando lawyer hooking up with his paralegal. You know, they spend all hours together. But
I know.
We hear about celebrities, and that's what happened.
That's what happened. Well, that's some hot gossip.
Well, yeah, and now when we watch these like sex scenes together, we're like, whoa.
Yeah, like, oh, now I get it.
Maybe that's where all the tension came from.
Exactly. Or when, we see Matthew Reese, with Martha, I mean, Kerry Russell's really going to be mad in real life. Anyway, so that's that. How about a prediction or two, or one?
I predict that.
Now, you're after
I'm
Buzz.
overzealous.
JTJ.
I'm overzealous about my one prediction, and I have been waiting to say it, that I think the new handler, because she's young and like whatever, may come between Philip and Elizabeth.
Oh, like you mean in the sack, like
kind of like Matthew Reese came between Kerry Russell and her husband, along those lines.
Oh, so you're saying that because I felt like there was some sort of spark that happened. I don't know, because she's kind of cute.
She's cute. She looks a little Mad Men-ish.
Yeah.
So I feel like that may happen.
And she's very much like, whatever she said. I love you, basically. Or
she's a little bit of a groupie.
I'm an admirer. Yeah, she's totally groupie. So
she's a
I
comment.
don't know.
You know when he'll like her is when she tells him what to do.
I'm gonna stick with that prediction because we got to get out of here. But I'm gonna just double down on your prediction.
I like that about us.
I'm gonna say you can find Joe Sanfilippo at josephsanfilippo.com. You can find him on Twitter at joeflippo.com. And where can we find you, Jen?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jen the Jew, and Facebook is Jenifer Golden, and my website jenifergolden.com.
Jen the Jew. Wait, you're Jewish?
No, I just play that in Hollywood because I figure people will like me.
Got it. I'm Joe Braswell. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Joe K. Braswell, and a bunch of other shows here on AfterBuzz with that you probably already know. So for Marissa Serafini and Jen and Joe Flippo and Lauren Leonelli, thanks for watching The Americans. See you next week.
Woo!
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.